relational operators, logical operators, loops, control statements, and input statements. Right. Okay. Please, if I'm too fast at any point, please call me back. And if you have any questions, you can ask or put them in the chat box. Right. So last session the tutor spoke about Python general introduction. So Python is a popular programming language and it was created by Guido van Rossum and it was released in 1991. It works on different platforms, so it is quite like versatile. It can be used on Windows, Mac, anything, or many things actually. And it has a simple syntax which is similar to English language. It is an high-level language, so it is very similar to English language and very easy to understand. From the words, you can interpret what they mean to English. And then he also spoke about what an IDE is. So an IDE means integrated development environment. And it is a software application that helps programmers develop code efficiently. So when you download Python, normally it comes with the IDLE, which is Integrated Development and Learning Environment. But the best thing is to download an external IDE because it makes writing code easier and more efficient. Then some examples of IDEs are Jupyter, PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, or VSC. Then there's Google Colab, right? So moving on to Python syntax. So from the slide you can see that Python is case sensitive and space sensitive. And then when I say case sensitive, I mean lowercase, uppercase. In Python, lowercase is not equal to uppercase, and uppercase is not equal to lowercase. For example, we discussed variables in the last class. If you create a variable name and the variable name has lowercase, and then you are to write it, you are to use it in another code, and then you put it as uppercase, Python will not recognize it as the same thing because uppercase and lowercase are not the same. Then Python is also space sensitive, and then when I say space, I mean like indentation. So just like indentation means in English, paragraph is like same thing here. So when you type a colon in Python, I would show that when you type a colon, sorry, when you type a colon in a Python code, for example, if I type maybe if this is just an example, when I type this colon and I press enter, there is a space. Okay, sorry, I don't, you can't see it. Sorry, are you guys following?
Yeah, so but we cannot see your
Yeah, I just figured.
codes.
Sorry, I would share it now.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is an example. So if I have um if a equals to 1, for example, when I put enter, you notice there is like a space in this place. I'm not sure if this is clear. Can you yes. So there's a space before the cursor. So if I type, there'll be this space. So this space is called an indent, and Python is very sensitive to this. If I am to put a space and I do not, I would get an error. Like there's no two way about it. The error will definitely come. So anytime there's a colon, Python automatically gives the indent. But if it does not, you can press tab on your keyboard and that will bring the indentation for you. So Python is very, very sensitive to that. Then, okay, back to the slide. Okay, yeah. So as I was saying, Python is very space and case sensitive, right? So then Python function. So a function in Python is a block of code that does not run if you do not call it. So when you write a Python function, the function will run. Like if you run the code, it will work, but you won't receive any output until you call the code. So for a Python function to work, you have to call the code or call the function rather. Then Python has some built-in functions like for getting the absolute value, minimum values, maximum values, the print function, and then to get the integers. So these are the functions for that. Then moving to variables and variable names. So a variable in Python is like you use it to hold values basically. It's what you can use to hold values like phrases, sentences, words, anything. So you can put anything you wish in a variable, and then variable names are the names you give to this variable. And then Python has some rules for that. For example, you cannot start a variable name with a number. You can't start with a number. You can't put a Python keyword as a variable name. Python has some keywords like print, sorry, like return, true, false. They're all keywords. If you ever put them as variable names, it will not work. You get an error. So also the variable names are just alphanumeric characters and they have underscores. That's for variables and variable names. Then for data types, so data type is every text or every data has a type. So yeah, data types. Every text has a type. For example, a number is an integer, a decimal number is a float. Let's say a text is a string. Then we have lists, tuples, sets, dictionaries, booleans. Booleans are true or false values. Dictionaries are um so dictionaries, lists, tuples, and sets, they are very related and they are like more special types of data types. So for a list has a square bracket. So a list is a group of, let's say, words or numbers separated by commas in a square bracket. Let me show an example of that. Okay, so a list is represented as this. This is an example of a list. It is a group of figures, numbers, strings, anything you wish, separated by commas in a square bracket. Then a tuple is also quite similar. A tuple looks like this. A tuple looks like this. As you can see, the only difference between them is that a tuple uses parentheses instead of square brackets, while a list uses square brackets. Then a dictionary is a little bit different. It uses curly braces. So a dictionary has keys and values. A key is like as name implies, the key is like what's used to access the value in a dictionary. So if I were to create a dictionary now, I put a key, then a colon, then a value, a key, a colon, then a value. So these are a dictionary is. Then set is also quite similar to a dictionary. But this a set does not have a key value pair. A set is just a curly braces, then values inside. So these are some examples of Python data types, apart from strings, integers, and floats. And then these are quite similar, so you have to be very deliberate about knowing the differences. Like a tuple is immutable, which means it cannot be edited. You can't perform edits like you can perform in a list, in a dictionary, on a tuple. You can't perform most things, basically. Then a set is just like a set in mathematics. You can perform it, get intersection of sets, union of sets, and all those sort of operations.
Sorry, can you come again? You said we cannot perform what on which of them? Operations
Okay,
on
I
which of
said
them?
a tuple is immutable, meaning it is not editable. So most of the
Okay.
operations you can perform, if not all of the operations you can perform on other data types, you can't perform it on a set. Sorry, on a tuple.
Okay. Immutable. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now I want to start what we have for today. So today we're starting from conditional statements. So yeah, a conditional statement or a condition generally is like a requirement. So it's a requirement that should be met. And then if it is not met, something will happen. If it is met, another thing will happen. So a conditional statement in Python, it gives conditions for instances and it provides alternative course of action. When I say it gives condition for instances, like let's say we give a condition, if this happens, then Python should do this. Then give an alternative course of action. If the first condition is not satisfied, then you tell Python what to do for the what to do on the other hand. So another thing about conditional statements is that they operate on an if else principle, like I just explained. Then they are affected by indentation. I mentioned indentation earlier that Python is space sensitive. So if you do not put an indent after your colon, you get an error. Conditional statements uses relational operators, and here it is said here a colon is used after a conditional statement, and then the conditional statements we have are if, else, and elif statements. So now moving to relational operators. So relational operators are like symbols that are used to establish a relationship between two values, and they can be called comparison operators because they are used to compare things. For example, if I give a variable, if I give a variable name, hmm,
Sorry, please can you come again? I think this is the last thing you said.
yeah, I want to share my screen. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm talking about conditional statements,
Oh, super.
and I'm trying to explain what relational operators are and what they do. So I said a relational operator gives the relationship between two things. For example, if I want to compare two numbers, maybe I have 5 and I have 2. A relational operator is what I used to compare them. Like now, I can say 5 is greater than 2. I can say if 5 is greater than 2. This way, I'm comparing 5 and 2. This is a comparison between 5 and 2 with a condition, or like it's a condition, and the condition is comparing 5 and 2. Then I can have other conditions, maybe other comparison. 5 is less than 2, which we know is not true, but it's just an example. Then for equal to, I'll use maybe if A is equals to B. As you can see here, I used two equal to symbols. This is because this is the relational operator for equal to in Python. One equal to is the assignment operator. I'll get to that after this. There's also not equal to. Not equal to is something. That's an exclamation mark and an equal to sign. You can also have less than or equal to. Maybe.
So we
So
can't
we can't put
say
a dash under the less than sign. So we just put the equal to after the less than sign. Then there's greater than or equal to. So these are the relational operators used in Python.
Check the last two you wrote. I think it's supposed to be greater than sign. Use less than sign.
Oh yeah, thank you. So so yes, these are the relational operators as it is here greater than, sorry about that, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, not equal to, and equal to. And I mentioned earlier that equal to is two equal to signs. So the reason that is because our one equal to is already used as the assignment operator in Python. That is this. So whenever you see one equal to, you're assigning a value to a variable. So equal to is used to assign a value to a variable. That's why the relational operator for equal to is 2 equals 3. So if you use 1 and you are trying to relate to two things, then you are going to run into an error. So the conditional statements are if, else, and elif. Now moving to if. The if block checks whether a condition is met. So for example, here there are sample codes here. If 5 is greater than 2, print great. Then here we have two variables, a equals to 3, b equals to 9. If a is less than b, print a is less than b. So I can show you that so you see how it works. So yeah, this is how to create an if block. You write your if. So Python is case sensitive, right? So if you put a capital I before the F, or you put capital I and F, it doesn't work. As you see, the color didn't change. But if I put lowercase I and F, the color is green because that is if. So if I want to compare, maybe I want to write words in the slide. If 5 is greater than 2, then a colon, enter. There's the indentation here. Then print 5 is greater than 2. So it prints this if I run it. I can also use variables. A equals to 3, B equals to 9. Then if A is greater than B, or rather less, if A is less than B, print, maybe I want to return the value of A. Yes. So if A is less than B, I want it to print the value of A, right? So as you can see here, there are two possible conditions because A is equals to 3 and B equals to 9. So it's possible that I can also say if A is greater than B, which is a false condition. So if I try to do that, if I change this condition here to A is greater than B, and I run this code, there is no output. This is because the condition is not met. The condition is false. And that's why an else statement comes in. So for me to get an output in this code, I have to bring in an else statement. Else, then I'll put a colon, then enter it. Then I'll put what I want it to return if the condition is not met. So I can put I'll put not met, meaning the condition is not met. So it gives this.
Sorry, somebody has a question.
Yeah, please go on. I'm listening.
Sorry, please, do we always have to put the colon to call? Like the colon before the print? Is it always necessary?
Okay, firstly, this is you're not calling here. Calling has to do with functions. And then yes, the colon is very necessary. Without the colon, you won't be able to do anything. You run into an error. I can show you that. If I do this, expected the colon. Can you see the error?
Yeah.
So you have to put the colon. It's part of the syntax for writing an if else statement. The colon is very compulsory.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So an else statement comes in when the initial condition is not met. Okay, moving on. Okay, so yeah, else block. Like I said, else provides an alternative course of action when the condition is not met. Look at this sample code. A equals to 3, B equals to 9. That's what I just demonstrated now. If A is greater than B, print A is greater than B. There will be no output for this code because the condition is not met. So we have to bring in our else and say else print B is greater than A. Then to run B is greater than A. So basically, here I'm bringing them together, saying an if else statement. So in an if else statement, when the condition is true, the code within the if block executes. Otherwise, the code within the else block is executed. So that's what an if else statement does. You give it a condition or several conditions. You're putting for the if and you're putting for the else. So you're telling the code what to do when the condition is met and when the condition is not met. Then now to the elif statement. So we've spoken about the if, the else, and this is the third conditional statement that we have, elif. So elif is equal to else if. Every if statement has to have like an else statement before you can bring in another if statement. Because if you state a condition and you don't state an exception, you cannot state another condition, basically. So I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, before I can move on to create another if statement, I have to put an else statement. That's why if I put if, I have to always put else. Do you get what I'm saying?
Oh no, I didn't.
Okay, so an else statement means else if. After every if statement, there should be an else statement. So an elif statement is used when you want to bring in multiple if statements. Like it is said here, it is used when multiple if statements are required in a block. So I want to bring in another if statement, but before I can bring in that if statement, I have to end the current one. And I can't put if else, if else. It won't work that way. So I have to bring in something that has else before if. So the else first ends the initial if statement, then the if starts a new statement. Do you get it now?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay. So it is used in between. It is used in between the if statement and the final else statement to give an if, elif, else block. Then you can put as many elif statements as required in the block that you create. So I can demonstrate that for you. But before that, the sample code here, sorry. Okay, the sample code here, I have a variable age, which is 16. And I'm saying that if the age is greater than 18, I want to print qualified. Else, if the age is equals to 18, I want to print will be considered. Then else, I'll print not qualified. So if any of the first two conditions are not satisfied, I want to print not qualified. Mm, I can show you and demonstrate that here. Okay. So if I want to add an elif block to an if else block, I'll start with the if. Okay, let me use this one here. Okay. The elif always comes in between the if and the else. It's always in between. So L if A equals to B, sorry about that. Sorry about that. I made a mistake. So yes, I'm inputting a new condition in this space. If A equals to B, I have to tell it what to do because when you give a condition, you have to tell it what to do. So if A is equals to B, maybe print A equals B, then I'll run this. So because this condition is not met, this condition is not met, this is the condition that is met. That's why I'm getting not met. If I change the values of A and B, maybe 9, 9, you get A equals to B. So that's the use of elif, and it always comes in between if and else. I can add another elif here. Elif, maybe A is not equal to B. So this is just how an elif. So this is how you input elif statements in between if and else. You can put as many as is required in your code. Right. So after a condition, always remember to put the course of action. So after this condition, you put your action. After the condition, you put your action. If not, you'll be getting an error. Right. While using conditional statements, we can have logical operators. Logical operators are used to join one or more conditions together. Oh, sorry, used to join two conditions together. Put it that way. We have and or as our logical operators. And is to say, okay, if this is this and this is this, just like the normal use of and, or is an alternative if age is greater than 13 or age is less than 18. So they are used with the if, elif, else statements, and they are used to chain multiple conditions together. Like the code here, age is equals to 15. If age is greater than 13 and age is less than 18, print age. We're chaining two conditions together. Earlier, we're just doing one condition, but now I want to bring in two conditions. Like we have a range. Like in this case, we have a range. We have the range between 14 and 17, because if age is greater than 13 and less than 18, that's between 14 and 17. So we want more than one value. That's what we're putting and. So if age is greater than 13 and age is less than 18, we want it to print the age. Then else, if age is equals to 13, 18 rather, print considerable, else print not qualified. So this is how to use an and. You can also use or in this place. That will mean age is greater than 13 or age is less than 18. It means you are giving it from maybe from 0 to 13, and then from 0 to 12, and from 19 and above. That's for or. You can try it out. Okay. So now I want to use the and or logical operators. If I'll name a variable a equals to maybe 3 or 34, if a is greater than 20 and a is less than 20, the colon, then print a. Else print not true. So here, oh sorry, I put 20 twice, 40. It's to print a, because a is 34. That means a is actually greater than 20 and less than 40. So this is and. Then for or, let me change the value of
Easy.
a to be between 20 and 40. Okay, that was actually. if A is greater than 40 or A is less than 20. So in this case, A is not greater than 40 and A is not less than 20. And OR is giving an alternative. A doesn't fit into any of these two conditions. So it's giving not true as the output. Are you following, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, that is for logical operators. Now moving on to loops. So a loop is used for iteration, and iteration means to repeat a process or repetition generally. Loops are therefore used to repeat a block of code for a given number of times. So I have a block of code, and I want to run the same thing over and over again. Rather than writing this code multiple times, I can loop through it. So the loop goes from one value to another, like through all the values I want to loop through. It goes from one value to another and repeats the same process on the values. So I can use a loop to iterate over data types. Like I explained earlier, we have data types like lists, dictionaries, sets, and all that. I can use a loop to like check each value in the list. So I can use a loop to check through each value in the list and then confirm or like perform a process on it or like check if they fit into a condition or a requirement. I can use a loop to iterate over data structures and navigate through them, performing operations on each item. So data structures are arrays and things like that. That's the arrays and all that for data classes. And we can also use a loop to iterate over a range of numbers. So in Python, we have a range function that we can use to get a range of numbers or a range of values. The range function works like this. If you say for I in range 0, and for loops or loops generally also use the colon and indentation. After every colon, the next line starts with an indent. So this is a colon here. The next line, there's a space. That's an indentation. So for I in range 0 to 11, I want to print I. Before I run this, a range in range, there is inclusive and exclusive. So the first value is inclusive and the last value is exclusive. So when I print all the values here, it will print from 0 to 10 and it will not print 11 because the last value is not included. So if I run this now, run this. Okay, I didn't put my parentheses after the print. Right. So I'm getting 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11 is not included. So that's how a range function works. And as you see, I use a for loop here. So anytime you see for, I'm creating a loop. And this for loop, it's iterated through or it's checked through these values from 0 to 11 and it's printed each value. So what I want to do, or what I wanted to do on each value is to print them. The process I wanted to perform is to print each value here. Rather than saying print 0, print 1, print 2 till I get to 10, I can just use a for loop to say for I in range 0 to 11, print I. So this is how a for loop works generally. This is still a simpler version. We have very much more complex ones, and that you from there you really know the importance of a for loop. So so yes, a for loop can be used to iterate over a range of numbers or a loop generally. So we have two types of loops, the for loop and the while loop. This is the for loop. They are used when the number of iterations required is known. So there are some times that we do not know how many times we need to repeat a process. Like the one I just did, I knew how many times I needed it. I knew I just wanted to do from 0 to 10. But sometimes we do not know how many times we need it. So when we do not know how many times we need it, we use a while loop. That's this while loop. But for now that we know how many times we need it, we use for loops. These are used when the number of iterations is known. Then this is a list. I want to loop through this list. Names is equals to Ayo, Bayo, and Titi. Then for item in names, I want to print every item. So I'm looping through this list to print the items of the list. Then for a while loop, they are used when the iteration requires as long as a certain condition is true or until another condition is met. So I have a condition and I do not know how many times or how long it will stay true. I just want to keep performing a process until the condition is false or until another condition is true. Then I'll use a while loop. So this loop is a continuous loop and it's suitable for scenarios where iteration is based on the condition that may change during the loop's execution. So as I'm looping through, my condition can change at any time, but I do not know when that condition will change. So I'll use a while loop. This code here. So I'm trying to launch a number of space shuttles, for example. I'm saying that the total space shuttles I need is 5, and the launch shuttle is starting from 0. While it is true, print shuttle launched. So launch shuttles is 0. So as launch shuttles keeps increasing until it gets to 5, I want to keep printing shuttle launch. So this while true means that while launch shuttles has not gotten to total shuttles, I need to keep printing shuttle launched. So I'm going to create a variable, or I already created a variable with shuttle launch shuttle to be equal to 0. Then I want to keep adding a value. This symbol you see here, plus and equal to, is you're assigning a variable and you're also adding. You're saying that your launch shuttle is equals to launch shuttles plus 1. I will demonstrate that after this. Then if launch shuttles is equal to total shuttles, print all shuttles have been launched. So in this code, what's happening is we're starting from 0 and we're trying to go to 5. But let's say we do not know when we're getting to 5, or we can't tell, we can't just enter the code and know when it gets to 5. So as long as the shuttles have not reached 5, the code will continue printing. But if the shuttles reaches 5, we're telling to print that all shuttles have been launched. Sorry. All right. So it will print all shuttles have been launched. That's the last statement here. So I can demonstrate this. So you see how it runs. So I want to demonstrate how a while loop works. I've shown how a for loop is used. This is a very simple example. So I'm just going to rewrite the code from the slide, but in a short form. So total short is here, like T is TS. So I'm trying to go to 5. So this call will end in the next 15 minutes and we'll continue on another call. So my total short is equals to 5. After this example, I'll stop so we continue the other call. Then my launch shuttles is equal to 0. So I'm starting from 0. Then while launch shuttles has not gotten to 5, while true, my colon, print shuttle launched. Then I'm assigning a new value for the variable. I'm saying that launch shuttles is equal to launch shuttles plus 1. So this is a way to say that after it has finished going through this first part of the code, it should add one more shuttle. So we're trying to increase the number of the shuttles so we get to 5. And you can write this in a simpler way. That was what was in the slide. You can write, instead of putting launch shuttles plus 1, you can put plus then equals to 1. So this means launch shuttle is equals to launch shuttle plus 1. This is another way of writing it. Then if our launch shuttles equals to our total shuttles, don't forget that your equal to is double. Then you have to print all shuttles. Then we run this. Wait, oh, sorry. So I'm running this now. Mm, 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 mm. Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, I'm trying to see why it is taking time to run.
What did you tell them?
Okay, so let's continue on the next call. This call will end in a very short while.
All right. Thank you.
I don't know if I'm communicating, and I don't want to move on if you cannot hear me because my network is acting up.
We can hear you.
Oh
We
well.
can hear you.
We
Please
can
go
You
hear
on.
can hear
you.
me now. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's continue from where we stopped. Sorry for the break. I'm sorry I've not been sharing my slide on my screen completely. Sorry about that also. So yeah, I was explaining while loops. Okay, please, do you have any questions or anything before I continue? No questions at all. So I can continue. Okay, if there are no questions. Sorry, you want to speak?
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
why did the stuff, why was it so long the other time? What was the mistake?
Okay, yeah, the while loop was not running because I think I must have mistakenly created an infinity loop.
Mm,
I'm going to explain that as I go on.
okay.
So we have some control statements like break, pass, continue. I'm going to explain that as we go on. If the condition does not change or you don't stop the loop, it will continue running to give you an infinity loop. So I'm going to explain that in the next. Yeah. So this is control statements. So we have three primary control statements, and they are break, continue, and pass. Control statements are elements in programming that alter the usual flow of execution in loops. So if your loop doesn't, if the condition of your loop does not change, you can change it by yourself because you don't want an infinity loop. That's how we break. So break is used to stop a loop prematurely rather than running the whole loop. So when you want to stop a loop, you don't want the old loop to run. You want to stop it at your own wish. That's when necessary. You can use a break statement or a break rather. So in this, I said how to stop a loop using break. So I'm creating a list of names. These are the names. And then I want to loop through this list of names. So for item in names, if item is equals to this, I want to perform an operation on each item. When I was explaining loops, I said you can use loops to go through a list or like a data type and then perform operations on each item in the data type. So this, I have three names and I want to perform different operations on each name. So I'm starting with Titi. I'm saying if the item is equal to Titi, print sin. Else, if the item is bio, print positive, then break it. So what break does is when your conditions have been met, all the conditions you need, when they are met, it will break it. I'll demonstrate this for you now. Okay, so I want to use a break statement in a for loop. So firstly, I'll create a list. I can create a list of maybe alphabet A, B. Right. So I want to say that for items in list, then my colon, then I want it to print item for item, not items. Okay. I'm going to open another kernel. Okay, so I want to create a new. Sorry, can you see my Jupyter or do you see my slide?
Your slide.
Okay, sorry, I'm supposed to be sharing my Jupyter. I'll change that. Okay. Oh, sorry, sorry. Okay, what about now? Can you see my Jupyter notebook now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's better. So yeah, for I'm creating a list. The list is equal to a list of alphabets. Okay. Then I want to look through this list for item in list. Then I'll put my colon as usual. I want to print my items. So I've printed the item. This is how to, I'm just looping through this list. Now I want to bring in the control statement break. This is my list. Now I want to say if my item, sorry, for item in list, the control statements only work with a loop. So if I start with if, it won't work. I have to loop through it first. So for item in list, if item for, for item in list, I want you to carry out an operation, print the item, but I don't want to completely loop through all the items. When I get to C, I want to stop. So if item is equal to C, break. So what this break does, it will stop the code when it gets to C. Sorry. Right. So if item equals to C, break. So what it does, it will print A, B, then C. And when it gets to C, it will break because the condition says when once the item is C, it should break. So this is for break. Then for continue, because there are three, there's break, continue, and pass. I'll demonstrate all three here first. So I can copy this. So continue, what the continue statement does is when it gets to the value, or when the condition is satisfied and you tell it to continue, it will move to the next iterator, or sorry, to the next value in the list. Like for example, I want to print all the items. If I say if item equals to B, continue. What happens is it won't, when it gets to B, it will continue to the next item. So if I have more conditions after this, it won't refer to those, or it won't follow those conditions. To just go to the next. So,
No.
okay. So continue is used to skip to the remaining commands to be carried out. I can get it better. okay, duration and proceed to the next items. Because this names means a list of names. It's a variable name for this list of names. So if the item is equals to the first name, okay, I want to print sin. If the item is equals to TT, I want to print sin. That is this because that's the last name. So basically, what the for loop does is to go from Ayo to Bayo to TT. So because Ayo is here, as you can see, there's no condition satisfying Ayo here. So it will continue to skip Ayo because Ayo is not here at all. So continue basically means if there is no condition that thing satisfied, move to the next is by your print positive, then continue. So after this is going to the next value. Am I communicating now? Did you get it?
Yeah,
Um,
yes, I think.
you get it?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to go back now to show you like to write a code for it
Sorry,
and
I
show
have a
how it
question.
works. Okay.
So if they continue, like what would be
Okay,
the
I'll show you. I'll show I'm coming. So for this particular code, because it's a very simple code, it will move to the next value because the conditions are not many. But without the continue statement, what the continue does is to get to the next value. Right? When like
No,
so I'm going to rewrite I want
you
to
are not
rewrite
talking.
this or give a more. So for item in because that's how it is in the slide. So for item in list, if item equals to A, print A, A elif item then print B. Then I'm putting my continue underneath. So this continue is the one that will take it to the next item. Else, sorry, I didn't put my colon. Print, let's say new.
There's
Yeah.
not a
So please
colon
pay
actually.
attention to your codes. I didn't put my colon in that place. That's why I got the error. So yeah, this what happens is this continue. It will ignore every other part of this code and bring it to this part of the code. So rather than this loop to go back to continue through A, B, C, D, it will come down here to continue with this condition. Okay, yeah. So you asked what will happen if there is no continue there. So if there was no continue in this statement, this code will go back to C and go back to D. But because I don't want it to go to C and D, I've gotten what I need. I just wanted to print out B. It will go to continue. So it go to the remaining part of this code. Do you get it now? Do
Not
you get
really. You said you don't want it to continue on C and D, but eventually he ran for C and D.
no, look at this. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can.
I don't want this block of code from this if to this part. I don't want them to continue with C and D. So I'm putting this continue so it goes to the other part of the code. So I think I have to properly define continue statement or the continue control statement rather. Like I said here, it is used to skip the remaining code in the current iteration and proceed to the next iteration of the loop.
Sorry, can you remove like the continue in the code? Like, let's see what
Okay,
actually happens. I think it will
okay,
be better.
okay. Watch.
So we'll see the difference now when there's no continue.
Okay, I'll do that, but I want to take continue statements from the top. So yeah, a continue statement is used to skip the remaining code in the current iteration. So iteration is like you are repeating. So the first iteration is like, okay, maybe for the first item, the second iteration is for the second item, the third iteration is for the third item. That's how iteration works. So that's how iteration works. So when I finish with a first value, like now I'm saying that for item in names, when I finish for this first value, I want to move to the second value like that. That's how iteration works. So it will work on this value, then move to the second value, then move to the third value. So I want to skip the remaining code in the current iteration and proceed to the next iteration of the loop. So the next iteration is this. This is the first iteration, second iteration, third iteration. So I've satisfied the condition I want in this loop. And I want to move to the next iteration. So that's what a continue statement does. So I'll now show it and then I'll remove the continue like you said so you can see what happens. Okay, so for this code, I've done A. I've told you what to do to A. It will move to B because this statement here, this for item in list, already tells you that it should move from item to item to item till it finishes the list. That's what this first line of code says. So I'm done with this first line. I've told you that, okay, as you're going through items, if you see that the item is equals to A, print A. If you see the item is equals to B, print B. Then I want to continue to the next item. This code is not very complex. But for this, I want to continue to like the next item and skip this remaining part of the code. So that's why I put the continue statement here. So if I remove it, like I said, this code is not very complex. So you might not see it. I can't seem to come up with a very complex code that can show it properly. But what this is showing here, if I remove this, okay, we can continue. Can you see this? Everything else is putting new when I remove that B part. Have you seen what the continue does? Please, who asked the question?
Yeah, I did. I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, now to pass control statement. The third control statement is pass. So what pass does is to ignore a part of a loop. It is used when no output is expected for an item due to certain conditions due to an iteration. So when I'm running this loop, I'm saying that I've given a list of names. I'm saying that for item in names, if the item is this, print this. If the item is bio, print positive. Then if the item is none of this, just ignore the item. I don't want any output for it. As I put pass here. So as you see, it only printed seen and positive, but it did not print any other thing for the remaining things. So that's what pass does. Pass is just to skip any, like you just want to ignore it. You don't want any output for it. That's what pass does. Mm, okay. So the next thing we're looking at today is input statement. There are sometimes you require an input, like you maybe you don't know what, you don't have the input, you want dynamic input, you want to be able to change the input, so you can use your input statement. So your input statement is used to receive user input during execution of a program. They allow users to provide dynamic input during the program execution, and they are used to create interactive programs that can take user specific data and respond accordingly. This is the function used to create the inputs, to accept inputs from a user. Then the input function always returns a string as the data type. So I'm going to demonstrate how the input function works. So this is what it looks like. This is how to use the inputs. Okay, so I want to create a variable, or I'll just show you how the input works first. As you can see, there's a space for me to type in what I want. Once you put this input function, it allows you to type in what you want as the output. So you can always type in whatever you want, then to return that as the output. So I can use this to create like a variable or something. So I want to say name. For example, let's imagine I'm creating like a form and I want you to put in your name. If I put name equals input, then I say print name. Okay. Name equals input, print your name is plus name. You've learned concatenation in the last class. So this plus name is to bring in whatever value of name you put. So if I type in my name here and I press enter, it will bring your name is Aisha, right?
Hello. Hello.
So this is
Lecturer.
how an input statement works. And in the slides, I said that an input statement always returns a string. So sometimes you need integer values. Maybe you want to perform calculations on input values. I can need
No,
numbers. I want to
I dey
print
report
numbers or
person
something.
class.
So
Person.
when I do need those kind of things, because
Cat.
the values are always
You
strings.
for
If you try
class.
to add two strings, you get an error. I'll demonstrate how the error will come about now. Let's say value equals to inputs, then print value, ten. So this 10 you see here, this input function has converted it from an integer to a string. So if I want to maybe add, let's say we have value 1 and value 2. Then I want to print value 1 plus value 2. I would get an error because the input function has changed the values to strings and you cannot perform this function on a string. Okay, see, this is giving 10, 12, not an error, yeah, because this is concatenation. It is concatenating the values. This is giving 10, 1, 0, 1, 2. But that's not what you want. You want it to give 10 plus 12, which is 22. So to do that, I have to convert the values. to integers. And to convert it, I think you spoke about it in the last class also, how to convert strings, floats, and things like that. So let's say v1, I'm going to name it v1 equals to integer, then I'm putting value 1 here. So I'm converting it to an integer. Then v2 is equal to integer value 2. So I'm putting my first value, my second value, 12. Okay, sorry, I didn't tell it what to do. That was an oversight. I wanted to print v1 plus v2. So I put 10, 12. So now it's giving 22 because I converted my string values to integer values. Then when running an input function, if you don't finish running this, you cannot edit this code. Like for example, if I leave here and I come here and try to run, to say cell not executed due to pending input. So whenever you have an input function, you have to complete the inputs first before doing any other thing. 10, 12, 22. So that is how to get user input and how to convert it to integers. You can also do it for floats and anything you want to convert to. So yes, this is the code on the slide. So this one says name equals to input, enter your name. Then so what you see on the screen is enter your name. Then it will give you the space to put your name. You put your name. When you press enter, it will bring enter your age. You put your age. So from here, I'm telling you to print hello plus name plus exclamation mark. So that's what it does. Then here I'm saying print you are plus your age plus years old. So I put 2 here. So it's giving me you are 2 years old. Sheesh. Anyways, now input statements and data types. I've already demonstrated it. So since the input function always returns a string, the need for data type conversion may arise. So you can use the integer function and the float functions to convert string data to integers and floats respectively. And that is demonstrated here. Input this, then this is for conversion, this is to add, and this is to print. Then that is the end of today's lesson, and we have an assignment. So the assignment is to create a simple program that uses conditional statements and loops to solve a problem. So you can create anything you wish. And thank you for listening. Please, if you have any questions, you can ask before we end the class.
You said something about the input function returning a string, right? Every time.
Yes, I did.
So about that example you did, the one with integers, was it because you already converted it or something? That was why it gave us integers.
Yes, so I showed what happens if I don't convert it. Then I showed what happens after I convert it. So I can show you that again.
Okay.
When I didn't convert it, this block of code here is for the conversion. So I can remove this first. So when I don't convert it and I try to add, I'm putting 10, I'm putting 12. What I want is, sorry, what I want is 10 plus 12. Oh, I'll just rewrite it. Control C, Control V. Let's say value, then value 2, 10, 12. Oh, sorry, I didn't change this V1 plus V2. And because I already defined V1 and V2 before, that's why it's giving me 22. So I'm supposed to add value plus value 2. So when I put 10 and 12, it will give me 1012 because it is concatenating the values. It's taking them as strings. So it's putting them before each other.
Okay.
So when I add the conversion parts,
Now I understand. So I was treating them as strings, like
yeah,
words. Next step.
exactly. So then when I put it now, I'm putting, sorry, I'm putting value one equals to integer. I'm converting this to an integer value. Then v2 is equal to the integer form of value 2. Then I want to add v1 and v2. Okay, I said it before. Let me see. So I'm going to run this now. So when I put 10, 12, it will give me 22 now. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can.
So that is how it treats them as strings and integers. So
Thank
please,
you.
any other question? Are we all good? Please react if you are good. Okay, thank you very much. I'll send the assignment to the group chat and the link for submission. And please remember to tweet about it before submission of the assignment. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.